If you were ever wondering what the most popular car nameplate across the world would be, the Toyota Corolla would probably be it. For over 50 years, this nameplate has been one of the top sellers. In fact, Toyota claims they just sold their 50 millionth unit across the world earlier this year. So for 2022, Toyota is expanding the Corolla family into the crossover segment. To drive this all-new SUV, Toyota has brought me out here to Austin, Texas. As you can see, the design is very reminiscent of the Toyota Highlander. It's kind of like a baby Highlander. And just like the Corolla sedan and hatchback, it's built off of the company's patented TNGA architecture, and it comes with the availability of all-wheel drive. So if you guys are in the market for a new subcompact SUV that slots below the RAV4, how does this new Corolla Cross stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So being part of the Corolla family instantly gives this car some name recognition. As I said earlier, this is one of the most popular nameplates across the globe because Toyota sells this car globally. It has been a huge success for the company. So it's no surprise to me that they would want to expand the family. And honestly, what took them so long? Because the company's current entry-level SUV, the CHR, is such a radical departure from what you expect from Toyota, and it doesn't sell well because the vehicle is cramped on the inside and doesn't offer all-wheel drive. And those are some of the things that Toyota has rectified with this new Corolla Cross. But we'll get to the interior in just a moment. Let's talk about the exterior of this new crossover SUV. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you is the fully decked out XLE trim. Toyota is going to launch this vehicle in 3 different trims, starting at the base L, mid-grade LE, and then of course this top-of-the-line XLE. And if you guys are familiar with the new Highlander's design, the front fascia looks awfully familiar. Toyota will essentially offer 2 different grille finishes. This is the grille finish that you get on the XLE. It's a big grille with some gray accents to it that's painted. The LE and L models will have a black painted or a black non-painted grille. All Corolla Cross models will come standard with full LED headlights. This one here has the upgraded projector beam, LED low and high beams. You have LED turn signals here and LED daytime running light, which you only get that on the XLE grade. And the XLE grade is the only one that gives you these LED fog lights. So essentially you have all LED lighting at the front, which gives this car a much more premium look to it, especially when you look at some of the competitors which don't give you that option. You can see the Toyota logo here houses the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control and automatic braking because this car does come standard with Toyota's Safety Sense 2.0. So you have adaptive cruise and automatic braking as standard. Now coming around the side profile, you can see this vehicle definitely looks a lot more like a traditional crossover versus the CHR. And in case you're wondering, the CHR is here to stay. That will remain the entry-level model SUV in their lineup. And the beauty about the Corolla Cross is you get some decent ground clearance. This XLE trim that I'm showing you rides on 18-inch wheels, and you have roughly 8.1 inches of ground clearance. You can see these 18-inch wheels have a machine finish look to them. The base Corolla will have a 17-inch steel wheel with hubcaps, while the LE will give you an alloy wheel. You can see the tires are 225/55 with tires. These are Goodyear Assurance all-season tires. So the vehicle, again, comes standard with front-wheel drive, but for those of you who actually do want to take your SUV into mild off-road conditions, the Corolla Cross will certainly suffice. Now, just like other SUVs, you can see there's some cladding along the front bumper, along the side. The mirrors you can see on this XLE have some integrated turn signals, and then you can see here there's some integrated roof rails. You can also get an accessory roof rail crossbars, and then a moonroof is optional on the XLE trim and on the L trim. But Toyota does not offer the black painted roof that you can get on the CHR and on the RAV4. Now looking at the rear of the profile of this vehicle, you can see very interesting design. It's very upscale looking to me, and the XLE grade gives you all LED taillights. You have LED brake lights, LED turn signals. The reverse light, however, looks like it's an incandescent. The LED brake lights only come on the lower end trims, and you can see here there's a XLE badge, there's a Corolla Cross badge at the back, and then there's also a Corolla Cross badge in chrome here that you get on the XLE. It'll be black on the other trims. Down here on the lower bumper, you can see a lot of black plastic cladding, which is what you expect. The exhaust system, you can see, looks a little bit cheap to me. I wish Toyota had put a chrome tip on it just to make it look a little bit fancier. And then from this angle here, I get a lot of RAV4 in the rear taillights. So you can definitely see that family resemblance. And the beauty about the Corolla Cross, this car competes with subcompact SUVs like the Subaru Crosstrek. And the XLE trim of the Corolla Cross comes with a power liftgate, which is nice. This is a rare feature that you don't typically find in the segment. Even the Honda HR-V does not offer that. And unlike the CHR, which has that sloping roof line, the cargo capacity of this model is decent. You get 24.3 cubic feet of space with the second row seats up. The front wheel drive models give you 25.5, so about an extra cubic feet. If you lift this up here, you can see Toyota gives you a temporary spare tire, so you don't have to deal with a fix-a-flat kit. And then if you fold down the second row seats, which Toyota did not provide final figures yet when you do that, but you can see here, you can fold it from back here, although the front passenger seat kind of gets in the way. When this seat is folded, it's not a completely flat floor, but I'd estimate it has probably around 50 cubic feet. So obviously something like the RAV4 will give you more space, but this has more room versus the CHR. Moving on to the interior of the Corolla Cross, I want to first show you guys the key fob for this vehicle. This is Toyota's smart key access system with push button start. It is included if you guys go for the LE and up trims. The base L will have a traditional switchblade key where you have to stick the key in the ignition without the smart entry. You only have the smart entry lock function on the actual front doors. Toyota doesn't offer you an option to include it on the back doors, so you have to always grab the front doors to lock and unlock this vehicle. Now my tester here with this black leatherette interior, they call it Softex. This is the only trim to give you the leatherette Softex interior. The L and LE will have a base cloth grade interior. And if you want, Toyota will also sell you a macadamian mocha two-tone finish, which has kind of like a beige and brown. I'd probably choose that, although the two-tone may be a little bit much for some people. The XLE also includes a 10-way power driver's seat with 2-position lumbar. The material itself is also soft and comfortable. The seats are 2-way heated, but they don't offer a memory seat and they don't offer ventilated seats, which is kind of what you expect in this subcompact SUV segment. Now getting in, you definitely feel a higher step-in position height versus the CHR. And then when I shut the door has a kind of tinny sounding slam. This is similar to what I hear in the Toyota Corolla, so that's something to keep in mind. It's built off of the same platform. The button to fire up the engine is back here where you'd expect it to be, although it gets kind of blocked by the steering wheel. And you can hear the vehicle starts right up. It sounds just like the regular Corolla. You have the Toyota chime. You have a 7-inch multi-information display here in the instrument panel, which is what you'd expect. The same instrument panel that's in the Corolla. You have an 8-inch touchscreen here that also includes Android Auto and CarPlay. This is the optional system. The standard display size is 7 inches, so this is not that much larger, but it is pretty much the norm for the segment. In terms of the materials, Toyota said that they basically copied the interior from the Corolla sedan, and I very much see that. The dashboard here has a similar design. It's a soft touch injection molded plastic here with some faux stitching. This, however, here is hard touch plastic. I believe it's the same on the Corolla. I'll have to double check that. Hard touch over here as well. It's padded over here on this upper portion of the driver's of the front doors. Window controls, they feel relatively okay. You have up down for the driver and the front passenger window and for all four. So actually Toyota gave you one touch up down for all four, which is definitely rare in this segment. The steering wheel, same one that's in the Corolla and the RAV4. It's a tilt and telescoping with manual adjustments. They don't offer a heated wheel. That's something to keep in mind if you guys are considering, again, the RAV4. The dashboard design is also pretty similar. You can see here's the wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which the graphics are decent, but they're definitely behind the times in terms of having the best looking, crispest display. You have dual zone climate control that you get on the XLE grade, single zone automatic on the LE, single zone manual on the base L. You can see here your 2-level heated seats, which the buttons feel okay. There's wireless phone charging over here in the center console, but my phone kind of barely fits over there. You have your stability control off button here, your auto start stop button there. This controls the CVT transmission and very traditional shifter. You can see there's the backup camera. It includes trajectory, but again, the graphics aren't wonderful. You cannot get a full top-down 360 camera, which is what you would expect in this segment. Electronic parking brake here. You have cup holders right here, which are in a good position. Some piano black plastic trim. This is all hard touch plastic, which is what I expect. Padded area over here. You have another power outlet down in there, and then you have one USB port over there in the center console. This lid feels pretty decent. It's a little bit slightly padded, and the seats, like I said earlier, are pretty soft and comfortable. I like the Softex material seats, and I also like the LED lighting that you get in the cabin, which is great. You even have some LED lighting here in the mirrors, which is also a great addition. My tester has an optional sunroof, which is just a traditional size sunroof. You can't get a big panel roof on this car. It's optional on pretty much all the upper trims. And then my tester also has the 9-speaker JBL sound system that's part of the Audio Plus upgrade package, which sounds pretty decent, much better than what I hear in the base Toyota system. So overall, the cabin, very familiar to the Corolla. It offers decent room, and you definitely feel like you're sitting up high, but it's not the class leading in terms of feeling like luxury and in terms of the tech, just because some of the tech features do feel old, but they do work pretty well. Now, Toyota expects you to use this vehicle like a family car, so I thought I'd show you guys the back seat, of course. And if you guys were comparing this to the CHR, you're gonna find a lot to like about this car because of that more traditional roof line. It definitely gives the back seat a little bit more space versus that vehicle. Now looking at the back seat, you can see my tester here with the celestite kind of bluish gray exterior has this black interior that really makes the cabin feel a lot darker, especially when you look at it from the rear, but definitely not as cave-like as what you get in the CHR. In terms of the materials, they're hard touch plastic with this kind of fake stitching here, soft touch right here with a silver accented door handle, and the roofline is more traditional, so getting in makes this a lot easier. Now, unfortunately, once you get back here, at 5'7", the legroom is definitely tight in this vehicle. Toyota actually only says you get around 32 inches of space back here. There's also a hump here that intrudes on the middle passenger. The seat cushion itself for the rear is decent, and Toyota actually throws in rear seat air vents as standard equipment, even on the base L version, so that's a great option to have. Down here you can see there's also USB charging ports. They're the USB-A and the USB-C, which is nice. You have one map pocket here on the passenger side seat. And then if you look at this, there's an armrest here that folds down. Although I do believe this armrest is optional, it's standard on the XLE trim. And the seats, like I said earlier, they're 60/40. Getting back here, you can see there is an LED lighting right here on the roof, which is great. You have a sunroof that kind of intrudes a little bit on the headroom space back here. A panel roof is not available, but overall, if you're looking for more back seat space, the Subaru Crosstrek definitely has more, and the new Volkswagen Taos. So that's something to keep in mind if you guys are considering the Corolla Cross. Now, under the hood of the new Corolla Cross, in a rather peculiar manner, Toyota is only launching this vehicle with just one gas-only powertrain. For a company that's known for their hybrids, their plug-in hybrids, that is a little strange. However, Toyota did confirm that a hybrid version of this car is coming. They just haven't told us when it's coming or if it's going to be a regular hybrid or a plug-in hybrid. Now, if you're okay with the fact that this doesn't offer an electrified option, what you do get is the Corolla's big engine. This is the company's 2-liter naturally aspirated direct injection dynamic force 4-cylinder that is optional on the Corolla sedan. And in the Corolla Cross, it makes the same power, 169 horsepower and 150 pound-feet of torque. Those power output figures put the Corolla Cross on the higher end of the segment. It kind of splits the difference between the two powertrains that Subaru offers on the Crosstrek. It all goes out through a one-choice only transmission, a direct shift CVT. This is a continuously variable transmission that has a physical first launch gear that gives the car a little bit more of a traditional feel from off the line. So I've driven this powertrain combination in the Corolla sedan before. In the Corolla Cross, it should be equally nice. Now, front-wheel drive is going to be standard. Toyota's torque vectoring all-wheel drive will be available as an upcharge. They call it all-wheel drive with dynamic torque vectoring. It's the same system that we've tried in the Camry all-wheel drive. And fuel economy, Toyota has already been announcing that. It's rated at, for this particular one here, the XLE with all-wheel drive is rated at 29 in the city, 32 on the highway, and 30 combined. The front drives models will do 32 combined, which is why Toyota didn't launch it with a hybrid. It gets one of the higher MPG figures in the class. Now, this is a crossover, so Toyota says you should be able to tow still. It'll tow a maximum of 1,500 pounds. And as this vehicle sits, it weighs in at around 3,325 pounds. So again, on the lighter end of the segment, and the specs are relatively decent. Now, reading the spec sheets of the Corolla Cross, I wasn't anticipating to be excited to drive this car. I mean, let's be honest here. How much can 169 horsepower really excite you in today's modern day where we have electric cars that are so bloody fast? But if you want something that's reliable, that's dependable, that's built well, that has a lot of value, that's easy to drive, that's not going to scare you with all this crazy tech, the Corolla nameplate has always been that vehicle. It's always been a little boring, although Toyota in their recent years has been trying to make this car more and more exciting to drive. And getting this vehicle out on the road here in Austin, Texas, I'm noticing one thing immediately. It drives exactly like the last Corolla sedan and hatchback that I drove. Just gives you a little bit of a higher seating position. So if you wanted a Corolla sedan that drove like an SUV that's a little taller, this is exactly how this car drives. The power from the engine is better than the last HRV and kicks that I drove, but it's not quite as fast, I don't believe, as the Crosstrek with the new 2.5-liter engine. I actually have that vehicle at home right now as I'm filming this review that I'm testing for the week. And I got my equipment here. We'll do a 0 to 60 test when I get a chance. The Crosstrek did it in about 8.5 seconds, maybe a smidge under 8 if you have it on a good day. This here, I'm expecting it feels like a 9-second car, so not as slow as like the 10 plus seconds that you'll find on a Kicks or an HRV, but certainly better. We'll test that out in a little bit. The car, however, drives really easily. It's very small. The steering is light, not really giving you much feedback, but it certainly has a good amount of feel to it. And around crowded areas like this urban environment that we are here in downtown Austin, it's certainly nice to have something that is so maneuverable. As I sit here in the sweltering heat that is Austin, Texas, I notice that the engine shuts off when we're sitting here at a stoplight, and it makes the AC kind of go a little warm. So quick solution, either hit the engine starts off button here, or just lift your foot off the brake slightly, the engine will come back on. The air conditioning will come back on as well, and you're not going to be sitting here melting in the heat. Just like other vehicles in this segment, you really struggle to pass people, especially when you're going up hills. These naturally aspirated engines just don't do a good job in these type of environments. You just have to have a turbocharged engine. So it makes me sad to see Toyota does not offer a turbocharged engine. That's something that you get in the quicker offerings like the Mazda CX-30 and the Hyundai Kona and Kia Seltos. But again, turbocharged engines tend to not get better real world gas mileage, and they just have a little bit more cost, a little bit more complexity. So there's a reason why Toyota didn't go with the turbocharged engine route. Now, again here, squeezing through tight areas, it's really easy to do in the Corolla Cross. You have great visibility all around. The ride quality is agreeable. It certainly feels a little bit on the firmer side. This all-wheel drive model that I'm driving does have the fully independent suspension. The front drive models have a twist beam, semi-independent suspension, which is funny because the Corolla now comes standard with a fully independent suspension, but they decided to cheap out on the front-wheel drive versions of this car, which kind of did surprise me. But it's nothing out of the norm for this segment. There are a lot of vehicles that do give you a torsion beam rear. As I accelerate here from a stop, you can feel that physical first gear gives this car a decent amount of pep off the line. It makes it feel a little bit faster versus a CVT, which kind of has that rubber band effect feeling. And it also mimics shifts. So if you guys prefer the feel of a traditional automatic, this is one of the better CVTs out there, but it's still, gives you a little bit of the rubber bandiness. There are no paddles on the wheel, which I'm surprised. I thought there would be paddles on this vehicle. Oh God, it's so sluggish here. Come on, we can do it. But once you kind of get past that, most people aren't going to be driving like as aggressively as I'm driving. I'm literally just doing it for demonstration purposes to show you guys what the acceleration is like. Around some corners here, you do feel that the car has a decent amount of playfulness. It just really struggles. I have to put my foot to the floor here, and it's like, hello, come on. Oh, so slow. God. But I don't want to be too harsh because everything in this segment is kind of slow, so I can't be too harsh on this vehicle. It certainly is appropriate for what it is. The one thing I'm noticing with this car is it doesn't have any drive mode selectors. The Corolla sedan offers like different drive modes. You can go into like a sport, eco, and a normal setting. This car doesn't have anything. It just has an eco mode that you can turn on and off in the instrument panel. But there are no other drive mode selections other than that. You just basically just put it in drive. There's not even a sport mode in the transmission here where you could slap this into a manual mode. It doesn't have anything like that. So that is a little surprising that Toyota didn't want to do that, or at least give me paddle shifters. You can take control of the manual, or you can take manual control here through the actual shifter, which is good for making the CVT kind of rise up its revs. And it does a decent job of faking the shifts, but it also isn't going to fool anybody. It'd be interesting if Toyota did like a GR version of this, which they still need to do the GR version of the Corolla, so don't get your hopes up. But yes, she's not a fast car, and you don't expect a vehicle in this segment to be that fast. So that's always something to keep in mind here. All right, let's go ahead and test out the 0 to 60. Traction control is off. We'll try brake torquing it. Oh, God. 10.4 seconds, 0 to 60. Yeah, she's slow. That was about as level ground as I'm going to find in this area, and it was still kind of a downhill slope, it says, of 1.4%. Yeah, she's pretty slow. This is among the slowest in the segment, but at least it doesn't feel that slow because of the responsiveness of the engine. I would question whether this thing could actually tow 1,500 pounds. It'll struggle to do that because it struggles to get to 60 like so many other vehicles in this segment. Now, in terms of fuel economy, I haven't been able to test fuel economy because we're on this very short media drive here in Austin. I'll have to redo that when I have the car for weeks to test. But it should do better than some of the competitors that have better acceleration, but just keep that in mind. This car definitely is on the slower end for the segment. So if you guys are familiar with the Corolla sedan and Corolla hatchback, if you spend any time with the new Corolla Cross, you'll quickly realize that this vehicle is the perfect addition to the Corolla family. Honestly, where has it been all these years? Because after spending the day here in Austin driving the car and just spending a little bit of time with it, I was actually relatively impressed with how this car drives. It is much better than the last HR-V and Jeep Renegade that I drove, and about on par with the last Subaru Crosstrek. Yes, it may not have the same type of all-wheel drive capabilities. The Subaru has a little bit more ground clearance. The Jeep Renegade will also have a little bit better off-road capability, but its standard 2-liter engine produces decent acceleration. It's not dreadfully slow like some of the competitors. I'm looking at the Honda HR-V, of course. Its CVT transmission with its physical first gear gives this vehicle a much more pleasant driving experience. It has decent ride and handling balance. The interior feels okay in terms of space for me, but the back seat is on the smaller end, and the interior materials, they're about average to below average in terms of the segment, but at least Toyota gave you features like a power liftgate, which you can't even get on some of its competitors. Really, it comes down to the pricing of this vehicle because the Corolla Cross is actually really well priced. This car starts at $22,195 for the base L version with all-wheel drive. Toyota will happily sell you an all-wheel drive model for additional $1,300. That price is plus destination. It makes this car about $500 more expensive than the Toyota CHR. At that point, it's a no-brainer. Get this car instead of the CHR. I'm actually surprised that Toyota continues to offer the CHR anyways. The L version is going to be right around $25,000. This XLE version that I'm showing you with everything comes in at just under $28,000, like $27,500 plus destination. That represents a really strong value, and it's going to make this car cheaper than something like the Subaru Crosstrek, which you have to get a fully loaded limited model to get their full LED headlights. And this car, again, with the option packages that it has, like the sunroof, the adaptive LED headlights, the JBL sound system, is a really decent entry that I think Toyota has priced extremely well because it's a lot cheaper than fully loaded versions of a compact SUV like a RAV4, even though it doesn't offer much space. But again, in an urban environment like this, you're gonna prefer something that's a little bit smaller, that still gives you that higher seating position and gives you that SUV capability. Now, speaking of which, the new Corolla Cross will be going on sale starting in October at that starting price of $22,195. And really, if you're in the market for a subcompact vehicle and you don't take a look at this new vehicle, you don't wait for it, you're doing yourself a huge disservice because I think this is going to do extremely well. And Toyota says the plant that's going to build this car, that's in conjunction with Mazda, has the capability of building up to 150,000 units every year. And I have no doubt in my mind that Toyota should probably hit that number within the next coming years. Well, with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2022 Toyota Corolla Cross. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.